This episode is brought to you by Commerce, parent company of BigCommerce, Feedonomics, and MakeSwift.
We want to build this technology and operations infrastructure for all of our partners. How do you help them compete and level the playing field? So much of what DoorDash has done since our earliest days is trying to help each merchant become a digital first merchant. From the first restaurants that I was selling in 2015 in Minneapolis to working with some of the world's largest retailers today, the common theme is how do you help merchants meet consumers where they are and help level the playing field?
Welcome to Retail Remix. In many ways, we modern consumers are very spoiled. Imagine our grandparents missing an ingredient in the middle of cooking or running out of medicine right when they needed it and being able to have those things delivered within an hour. It's something that wasn't possible even 10 years ago and now has become so commonplace we barely remark on it. One of the companies making all this possible is DoorDash, and today we're talking to their head of new verticals, Fuad Hannon. Because here's the thing, even with all the amazing innovations in commerce that we now take for granted, DoorDash still thinks there's room for more. Today we're going to hear about that vision and where e-commerce is headed next. Welcome back to Retail Remix. I'm your host, Nicole Silberstein, Editor-in-Chief at Retail Touchpoints. And today we have with us Fuad Hannon, who leads new verticals at DoorDash. Fuad, thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Nicole.
So DoorDash has been up to so much this year. I was really struggling to figure out where to start the conversation with you today. And I think maybe the big picture might be a good place. So can you tell us a little bit about what you view as DoorDash's role in the world and how the company is working toward that?
Yeah, it's been a really fun year. And it's a great question to start with. I think at the core, our founder's vision from the earliest days was to empower local economies. And really what that means at its sort of like most basic level is how do you bring all of the businesses that are in the communities that we all live in, how do you bring them online and help them compete in a digital first economy? It's everyone from your local burrito spot to your favorite grocer to this happened to my wife yesterday. She ran out of mascara, needed to get it delivered from Ulta to her office, and how do you connect all these businesses with millions of consumers who love these brands and want to buy from these brands and want the convenience of delivery? And that's really kind of been the core of DoorDash's thesis since the earliest days. And really, it's, we think of it as how do you keep growing local GDP as sort of how we try to accomplish that. And the main thing that kind of underpins that is you can help businesses reach incremental consumers. You help consumers get more time, get more convenience back, and ultimately you're providing earning opportunities for millions of Dashers who are looking to supplement their income from delivery. And that's kind of what we're trying to go do. And we've been doing it pretty methodically over the last 12 or so years, starting with restaurants, moving into convenience and grocery and increasingly retail. And that's kind of the vision of the company and what we're trying to do.
I really love that umbrella term, local commerce. I think so often when we talk about this space, the first words that come up are like delivery or food, because that's a lot of how it started. That's a lot of how consumers experience. But the idea of it being more about connecting local merchants to local customers and the immediacy factor. I just love that kind of way of looking at what you all do.
Yeah, and I think, credit to our founders where from the earliest days, we started with restaurants, and restaurants were a really compelling use case to start with for a couple of reasons. One is that consumer expectations for fast deliveries are the highest in restaurants. You want to get your meal now. And then there's over 1 million restaurants just in the US alone. And so if you think about being able to start with restaurants and figuring out how to do last mile for the restaurant category, you'll then be able to extend that to additional categories where you'll figure out the 35-minute delivery time, where if you're getting a burrito and it needs to be hot, it will stay hot. And if you're buying ice cream and it needs to stay frozen, it will stay frozen. Starting there and then expanding to other categories. I think that's kind of been the strategy since the earliest days. In the last maybe 4 to 5 years, we've been able to really sort of supplement that. And we're really fortunate. Like today, for example, Nicole, we've got over 500,000 stores on the DoorDash platform across all of our categories and over 115,000 grocery, retail, convenience stores on the platform. And it's a testament to the fact that we serve the majority of America, and pulling all that together has been a fun journey and really underpins the strategy that we're trying to go after.
Yeah. Wow. Those numbers are really impressive. Of course, it's on-demand delivery is a pretty competitive sector. There's a couple of other big names. We won't mention them operating in this space. I'm curious what you think really separates you from the pack of other, I guess you'd call them platforms, doing the same thing.
Yeah. DoorDash, since the company started in 2013, I joined the business for context in 2015. And since the earliest days, it's been very competitive. And what we've really tried to do is stay as customer obsessed as possible. And when we think of our customers, we think of our end consumer, the merchants that we have the privilege of serving, Dashers on the platform, and increasingly our brand advertisers and brand partners on the platform. And we really relentlessly focus on how do you add value to them in every single transaction, in every single interaction. And the really interesting thing in our space is one thing that Tony's talked about as long as I've known him is, you're only as good as your last delivery. And this relentless focus on just being 1% better every single day, stripping out 1% more defects, making delivery times 1% faster, reducing pricing, all of that over a period of time starts to really compound. When we think of what we're trying to do just at the most fundamental level, it's how do you bring the most amount of selection onto the platform as possible? And so we want to be able to solve consumers' needs across different use cases. Breakfast, maybe, your kid is sick and you need medicine. This happens to me. I've got 3 little ones. This happens to me more than I'd like. You realize that you don't have lunch ingredients for tomorrow and you can get it ordered in the evening and have it delivered in an hour or less. How do you solve those myriad of use cases? And by bringing the most selection onto the platform and then being able to kind of put it all behind DashPass, which is our subscription offering, $10 a month or $100 a year, you can get all of this delivered with no delivery fees, and then relentlessly focusing on quality in every single delivery. We think if we're able to execute on that selection, quality, affordability kind of dimension, that we can build something really special. And it's been the strategy since I've been here, and it's very easy to articulate, and it is very, very hard to do for a long period of time. And that's kind of what we've been focused on.
Yeah, or in my case too, I mean, and this is not as much a recent addition anymore, but I am constantly using DoorDash because I run out of wine. And alcohol brings a whole nother factor into the delivery category you talked about. Cold, frozen food, hot food, mascara. There's also alcohol as well. And that's a delivery.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you bring up that example. I mean, that's exactly right. And if you think about what we have to build in order to represent our retailers in a really high quality way. It's on something like alcohol, you're starting to think about obviously ID verification, both at the buying process, at the delivery process. In something like mascara, when a Dasher is going to Sephora or Ulta and they're shopping on your behalf, the shade of mascara matters a lot. The specific ingredients matters a lot. And how do you build a system that can handle all those deliveries in a really high quality way and brings consumers what they want? Yeah, it's challenging, but it's a lot of fun. It keeps us on our toes and it keeps us relentlessly focusing on improving our experience day over day.
So you're in charge of new verticals, which is kind of a broad title. So I'm curious what is encompassed under new verticals at DoorDash.
Yeah, it is. It is a broad title. DoorDash has always been focused on just solving incremental problems for our consumers, our merchants, our Dashers. We started in obviously restaurant delivery, but as you can tell from the last year, we're focused on just solving problems more generally for our audiences. I think that is how I've come to really appreciate and understand DoorDash over the years. On the new vertical side, what we're really trying to do is turn DoorDash into a multi-category app. So at the simplest level, Nicole, it's really how do you take DoorDash from being a restaurant-only platform to a multi-category platform to solve all the use cases that you and I were just describing. It's everything from grocery to convenience to retail to alcohol. And today, we're really fortunate. 1 in 4 of our consumers, 25% or so, are multi-category shoppers. They're coming to DoorDash for a restaurant meal, but they also might be coming to get that mascara delivered, or your kids' flag football tournaments this weekend and you're responsible for bringing the snacks. How do you get all that ordered from DoorDash? And that's kind of what we're trying to do on the new vertical side, is extend the platform beyond restaurants to grocery, retail, alcohol, convenience, et cetera.
I mentioned at the beginning, you've been doing a lot this year. One of the, from my perspective, most exciting things is the recent launch of your fulfillment network. So that I would really like to hear a little bit more about from you and what you're hoping that will achieve. Does that count as a new vertical? I guess not. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good question. Sometimes we even debate of how do you define things? We really focus on the building of the primitives and the building of the technology and the operations. Yeah, we were really excited to announce maybe just about a month ago, DashMart Fulfillment Services. And the core vision of DashMart Fulfillment Services is when you think of how local e-commerce is done today, it's a Dasher, or insert another platform, their driver names. It's a Dasher going to a store. Everything about that store has been optimized for you, Nicole, or me to walk into that store and to buy something. They are amazingly merchandised. The layout, where they are, the proximity of the store, all of the merchandising has been done in a way to inspire you to shop in that store. And that's an amazing part of the experience. We think that needs to continue to exist. But it might not be optimal for delivery, right? If you think about delivery, people are buying 24/7 these days. It's not the 10 a.m. to maybe 7 or 8 p.m. where a lot of your specialty retailers are open, or maybe 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. when most of your grocers are open. And they're not optimized for fulfillment. What that means when I say they're not optimized for fulfillment is you might not know exactly how much of an item is in stock. It might not be proximally placed to the consumer. And so with DashMart Fulfillment Services, we handle all of this on behalf of our grocer and retail partners. We have over 100 DashMarts across the country, and these are purpose-built sites for e-commerce. Everything from how we receive inbound inventory to the packing of product to the outbound of the logistics to the placement of these DashMart Fulfillment Services has all been optimized for a delivery experience. One where we've taken a really first principles view of when you buy something online and you need it in an hour or less, what needs to be rebuilt in the infrastructure to make that happen. And so today, the way to think of DoorDash is when you buy something that is across any of our new verticals, grocery, convenience, retail, et cetera, there's a portion of that experience that'll still be fulfilled from the store, right? There's might be mid to long tail inventory. There might be things that are specific to that store. But increasingly for key inventory, if you think about a merchant like CVS who's partnered with us on DashMart Fulfillment Services, there's been many times when it's 1 a.m. and your kid is sick and you need specific dye-free Motrin that is exactly for their age. DashMart Fulfillment Services is kind of how we bring that to life on behalf of our merchant partners. And that experience can live on, let's say, CVS.com or on CVS on store page on DoorDash. And it's all about how do you reduce defects, reduce cost to serve, improve quality for consumers. And that's kind of what we're trying to do on the DashMart Fulfillment Services side.
Another new customer of this new service is Party City, which is an interesting example because, as you mentioned, it can live like store brand on DoorDash app because that company no longer has stores, but we can still now get Party City balloons and everything else through this service.
Yeah, it's a great example. It's also very timely because this is Party City's like Super Bowl around Halloween, and we're seeing it live, and it's really amazing where consumers are going to either DoorDash or to partycity.com. They are selecting their Halloween outfits. They're deciding if they want to be Batman or Spider-Man, if you're in the case of my oldest. And all of that from a delivery and logistics perspective in the geographies where we're live with them is handled by DashMart. So if you imagine if you're Party City, you now can have an e-commerce offering. You can give this to your consumers. It can be super, super high quality. And then the best part about it is you don't have to worry about the e-commerce complexity of picking in store, of figuring out which inventory do you cordon off for delivery versus your in-store guests, handling last mile. We do all of that. It's branded Party City. It is Party City. We just happen to be on the back end doing it. And we think that is the world that will increasingly exist in a world of local commerce. So yeah, we've got Party City that we're partnered with. CVS, we're really fortunate to be partnered with. We'll be testing with Kroger into 2026. And we think that this is a really compelling way for us to, again, solve incremental problems for our consumers who want high quality, fast deliveries that are affordable, and then represent our merchant partners and helping them grow and compete in a really competitive landscape as consumer expectations only increase. Consumers only want things more affordably, more quickly, in a higher quality way. And we think DashMart Fulfillment Services is a part of how we bring that to life.
So it's hard to hear about what you're building and not think about similar offerings from other companies like Walmart and Amazon, who both also have their own fulfillment services as well. How do you compare what you're doing to the like Walmart and Amazon fulfillment networks? Like what's different? What's the same? And is there demand in the space for all of these to coexist?
Yeah, it's a good question, Nicole. So I think two thoughts. One is that we want to build this technology and the operations infrastructure for all of our partners. And so for the folks that aren't maybe the two that you mentioned, how do you help them compete in a way where consumer expectations are only rising? And so if you're CVS and you want to win that late night delivery, or you want to offer your consumers a really compelling value proposition, how do you help them compete and level the playing field? So much of what DoorDash has done since our earliest days is trying to help each merchant become a digital first merchant. From the first restaurants that I was selling in 2015 in Minneapolis to working with some of the world's largest retailers today, the common theme is how do you help merchants meet consumers where they are and help level the playing field? 10 years ago, it was not everyone had delivery. We help level the playing field, and now everyone can have access to delivery for when a consumer wants that delivery use case. And today, it's a very similar idea where not every merchant will be able to build their own e-commerce operation, and we want to help level the playing field as much as possible. And we think that at the end of the day, if you just look at grocery, for example, park retail, which is even more complex and more idiosyncratic, the average consumer in America is shopping at 3 or 4 grocery stores a month. I mean, I'm sure you can imagine your own use cases. Sometimes you're going to maybe your local store, sometimes you're doing your bulk shop. And we think that the world that exists today, and certainly the one that we want to help continue to make true, is one where consumers have a lot of choice, where they can buy with the same confidence, expect the same convenience across the myriad of merchants that they want to buy from. So that's, I think, thing number one that we're really focused on. And then lastly, I think one of the key differences is like these are local at their core. These are, we're doing deliveries in 35 minutes or less out of our DashMart Fulfillment Service network. 40% of deliveries, this is really interesting, 40% of deliveries are happening after 9 p.m. So you can imagine the majority of stores, at least where I live, the majority of the stores are closed. Like my local CVS isn't open past 10, I don't think. My local grocery store isn't open past 9. 40% of these deliveries are happening after 9 p.m. And that is a really compelling thing because these are located proximally to consumers, they've been built for a really quick delivery time. You start to expand customer use cases and help merchants reach incremental users and ultimately drive incremental sales and profit.
Yeah. Not to mention the speed also strikes me as a differentiator. I mean, Amazon is really good, but they're not getting my kids' medicine in 30 minutes. That's for sure.
And again, this is just one where, like, depending on the use case, like sometimes you're okay to wait,
Yeah.
6 hours or next day. But like I've certainly been in a situation where it's like late and you like literally run out of the Motrin that your kid needs. And there's nothing worse in that time when you're like, I really need it right now. And I think that's just a very, very specific example, but there's thousands of examples where customers need things quickly. And we want to help solve those customer problems and help merchants reach customers where they are.
Retailers are entering a new era, one powered by AI and filled with opportunity. But they shouldn't have to go it alone. Meet Commerce, the new parent brand uniting BigCommerce, Feedonomics, and MakeSwift into one AI-driven ecosystem, connecting all the tools your business needs to adapt faster, scale smarter, and grow with confidence. Commerce's powerful selling solutions help brands turn data into discovery, create storefronts without bottlenecks, and build frictionless shopping experiences that your customers will love. Want to learn more? See how Commerce is powering what's next at commerce.com/retailremix.
I do want to talk a little bit too about the delivery piece of things, because you've made a number of pushes recently into autonomous delivery. You debuted your delivery robot Dot, and also you recently expanded your partnership with Waymo. So I'm curious what your vision is for autonomous delivery. Like, is this eventually going to be how all orders are handled? And if not, what role or what piece of the pie does it take within the DoorDash ecosystem?
Yeah. So DoorDash Labs is our robotics and automation arm. It's a team inside of DoorDash. And I think, maybe just kind of set the stage for those that are less familiar. Since 2018, so we've been at this for 7, almost 8 years. The team's mission has been to find, develop, and integrate automation and robotic solutions that ultimately improve the way that we serve our customers and communities. So merchants, dashers, and end consumers. The way that we think of autonomy and robot delivery, it's a multimodal approach. And so what we mean by that is that we think that ultimately there won't be a single way to bring a product to a consumer. We aren't religious or dogmatic about that. And we think that, for example, bringing you your mascara might be a very, very different experience than bringing you $100 of groceries, as you might imagine. Even though maybe the value of those items might be the same, how you want you to do the delivery will differ quite a bit. And so as a result of that multimodal kind of philosophy where something might be delivered via a Dot robot, something might be delivered via Waymo, which we just announced a partnership with recently, something might be announced via Wing drone, what you really have to build is the orchestration layer to figure out what is the best mechanism of delivery. And by the way, things will continue to be delivered by dashers at the end of the day. And so we've built this autonomous delivery platform that orchestrates the different type of deliveries together that effectively leverages AI and machine learning techniques to figure out what the optimal item, customer, delivery mechanism thing should be. So in a certain instance, it might be a Dot robot. Another instance, it might be a drone. In other instances, it might be a dasher. And that's what we're really focused on is providing a lot of choice because we don't think that one delivery mechanism will rule them all. And we were fortunate. We've been at this for, again, 7 or 8 years, and we've developed a lot of technologies. We've done thousands and thousands of real life deliveries. This isn't like an R&D project. It's something that's been out in the wild, and we've learned a lot. And we're excited to kind of keep iterating on that.
Yeah. Autonomy also makes a lot of sense coming back to the fulfillment network when you think about, because your fulfillment services are 24/7, right? There's never a day of the year where they won't be available. But even as I was, kind of reading the announcement, I was like, well, what Dasher is going to want to be delivering stuff at 3 a.m? Like, how many Dashers are going to be available to deliver at 3 a.m? So this kind of helps also in those kinds of situations where humans maybe don't want to be working.
Yeah. I think there's instances where perhaps a Dasher won't want to do a certain type of delivery, or it might be best optimal for a robot. And then there are still, we think the majority of the deliveries are going to be best optimized for Dashers. And so we're just trying, we're trying to build a system that can think strategically about the right outcomes we want to drive to. And that's been a lot of the work. It's sort of like a two-part body of work that our DoorDash Labs team has taken. One is obviously building Dot, our own autonomous delivery robot, but then also building the platform that orchestrates various types of deliveries. And it's still really early innings. We'll certainly learn a lot over the coming years, but we're really excited about the potential of this. And I think these technologies are becoming increasingly commercially viable. They're not just R&D projects. They're out in the wild. People are taking Waymos, Dots are delivering orders, and we think there's going to be a lot more of that over the coming years.
Very interesting. So now DoorDash has also made a number of big acquisitions recently. Many of those have expanded your presence globally, but also some of them have expanded your tech. And I kind of want to talk to you a little bit more about the latter, in particular, the acquisitions of Symbiosis and 7 Rooms. Those both seem really interesting. And I'm curious if you can tell us a little bit more about what those additions mean to your offering for retail clients, since that's who's listening.
Yes. So maybe the kind of like the impetus behind some of these acquisitions. So to your point, we acquired Deliveroo this year. And so we're now in 50 countries globally. And we've acquired Symbiosis and 7 Rooms, both solving, sort of different problems. But at the core of what we're trying to do with both Symbiosis and 7 Rooms, it's kind of what I alluded to earlier, which is how do you solve incremental problems for our audiences? And with 7 Rooms, it's a reservations platform for our restaurants. And so we sort of see a world where delivery obviously serves a bunch of use cases, but at the end of the day, you want to go out on a Friday night, you want to, go have a date, and 7 Rooms helps merchants manage their reservation system. And that's a thing that we're really excited about. On Symbiosis specifically, so Symbiosis it helps our retail and brand partners reach consumers beyond the DoorDash app. So what we mean by that is, at the simplest level, DoorDash has done a really great job of, if you open up the DoorDash app and you want to search for an item or search for a brand, we do a really great job of that. We've got 50 million global monthly active users, 22 million plus DashPass members globally. But off platform, when you're searching for something maybe on Google or Meta or any other platform, Symbiosis helps connect the dots there. And so we've been partnering with Symbiosis for the better part of the last 2 years. And the way to think of it is, it's a self-serve platform to purchase media for brands and retailers to team up to drive sales back. So you can imagine a world where, let's say you are Pepsi and Kroger, and you're the Pepsi Kroger team, and you want to drive sales back to Kroger. You might work with the Kroger team to bid on TikTok, on Meta, on Google, to then ultimately drive the transaction back to either Kroger.com or to your Kroger DoorDash page. And so it's a way for us to sort of expand our reach in terms of how we help retailers and brands beyond just the DoorDash platform.
Very interesting. I mean, there's just so much going on at the company. I feel like I could talk to you for another hour about everything you all are doing. We didn't touch at all on the ad business. Anything to talk about there? Because that's a whole nother kind of unit that is growing at DoorDash as well.
Yeah. On the ad side, yes, it's been really fun. We announced a few months ago that our advertising business has reached over $1 billion of annualized run rate revenue, which is really quick. But what's more important than the metric is how we're doing it. And when you think of the DoorDash ads business, there's really 2 components to it. There is as a restaurant, I'm trying to win incremental sales. And so you might search for tacos, and the various, merchants that sell tacos might bid to win incremental consumers on the DoorDash platform. And then there's the brand side of our advertising business. And so when I'm in the Kroger store page and I search chips, or I search soda, or I search face wash, we can then help the brands that are selling through Kroger grow their business. And what we're really focused on with our ads business is 2 things. One is, how do you continue providing really compelling incrementality to the advertiser? At the end of the day, that's the thing that we think about a lot on that part of the business, is making sure this is a great investment for our merchants and for our brand partners. And thing number 2 is, how do you balance the consumer experience in all of this, right? Those 2 things I think are really critical to balance. I think the team has done a really good job of figuring out, how do you keep growing that business, providing incremental growth opportunities for retailers and brands and restaurants, but at the same time, making sure there's a really great customer experience that sort of sits underneath that.
Very interesting. All right. Well, like I said, I could probably talk to you for another 2 hours, but we're just about out of time. And I do want to get to our last final set of fun rapid fire questions really quick. So if you're ready to go, we can do those.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The first one is your favorite new addition to the DoorDash marketplace. And I'm realizing as I ask you, it may be like asking you which of your children is your favorite. So feel free to bow out if you want to.
It's a tricky one. I will answer it twofold. Okay. Obviously, we are thrilled to be partnering with Kroger. They're one of the largest grocers in the country, 2,700 stores. They've, fully ramped. I unfortunately don't live in a Kroger market. That part's tricky. So the one that's in my market that has really made my life a lot easier in the last couple of months as we're in the fall has been Ace Hardware. The amount of home projects and various things that has been awesome. And the thing I love about Ace in particular is that it's a national brand, but it's all powered by small and medium business owners that live in the communities that we operate in. And so that's been a lot of fun. But yes, it is a tricky question. We love all of our merchants and are just grateful to be able to represent their brands.
Yeah. Just to be clear, those are only just like the new fun additions. He loves them all. Yeah. What is the most unusual thing you've ever seen delivered by DoorDash? It could be something that you ordered that you thought was kind of crazy that you could get it in 30 minutes, or something in general.
This is one. Okay, so we partner with PetSmart and Petco, Pet Supplies Plus. And one of the things that we sell a lot of are live crickets. And I remember like a couple years ago, like looking into the data and being like, wow, we sell a lot of live crickets because these are things that, again, they're perfect. Like you can't, overnight live crickets. They're in your stores. And so we sell a lot of those. I remember seeing that data being blown away, but it is, we sell a lot of it.
That is such a good one. We talk so much about human babies, but I guess when like your pet rat needs to eat, he needs to eat, or whatever kind of animal eats crickets. I don't really know, actually.
I don't know either, but you're exactly right.
What is something in your daily life that you wish there was a robot for?
Yeah, definitely folding laundry.
Oh,
I'd much rather put away dishes than fold laundry.
Folding and putting it away.
Yes.
Like you always underestimate how long that's all going to take.
100%.
What is your biggest e-commerce pet peeve as a consumer?
I think returns are tough. I mean, I think everyone has the example. Returns are really annoying for everybody. They are annoying for the merchant because, there's all this inventory that is going to come back to you and you kind of want to get it back right away so you can either turn it or get it back into the store. And then for consumers, I think we all have the examples of like the box of thing or the bag of things lining up at the door. I think that's one that I think like leaves a lot to be desired from a consumer and merchant perspective.
Yeah, but such a tough nut to crack. I mean, it's, everybody's been trying for years. NRF just came out with their numbers. It's returns this holiday season right on par with where they have been.
Yeah, it's like something, I think I read something like 15 or 20% of all apparel is returned.
And like always even higher for e-commerce orders, like 19 or something for
e-commerce. Because customers are doing their you don't know what size it is. So you're buying the true sizes. You're doing the bracketing thing. Yeah, that's one that I think is, I have never enjoyed returning or being on that side of it.
Yeah. If you could trade jobs with anyone for one day, who would it be and why?
So I was thinking about this one a little bit. I love football and I also love business. I think Roger Goodell, who leads the NFL, I think that'd be a very, very interesting job for a day because you've got the business model is fascinating. You get to watch football too, which is not terrible. And it's very complex with a lot of different constituencies. I think that would be a really fun one. I think I'd have a lot of fun and learn a lot.
This is interesting because you're the second guest who's picked like a athletic leave commissioner level job. There was someone else who wanted to be the NBA commissioner for a day.
Yeah.
There's something really, really compelling about that job, I guess.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. I think the media side of that business is very, very fascinating these days because live sports is really, really has taken off. And so, I think there's something there that is hard and interesting that would be really fun to think through. And then like you get to watch the game as a consolation prize.
Exactly. Like you get to also do what you love for your work, which is always nice. Well, thank you, Fuad, for being here today and kind of letting us peek inside of DoorDash's playbook a little bit. It's been really fun.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Nicole. I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yeah. Thanks to all of you for joining us. As always, we'd love to continue the conversation with you on LinkedIn on the Retail Touchpoints page. Be sure to stop by and drop your take on the topics we covered with Fuad today and let us know who else you want to hear from in future episodes. Thanks, everyone. Talk to you all soon. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Retail Remix. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app. Until next time, keep mixing it up.